While we turn the pages of history, we find several colors of human race, right from that of humanity, harmony, and love, to barbarism, brutality, and hatred. Who hasn't heard of Adolf Hitler's formula of shooting 100 for every German soldier killed? During October 1941, German soldiers mass murdered thousands of male civilians in the German occupied territory of Serbia in order to crush the rebellion. These killings included high school students too. Various art forms, including cinema, have carried these stories of human behavior across generations. Prosvan JEIV3 is one such film that carries you back to some extreme, unfortunate, and brutal moments of October 1941 during World War II. The film revolves around the story of killing one such unfortunate batch of teenage students. Slobodan Dan Paich played a lead role in the super-hit war film of 60s. Multi-talented teenager who had excelled in films, radio, sculpture, theatre, and so many other things, was forced to flee out of his homeland during Tito's regime in 1967. He had to flee out of Yugoslavia.
This is our place in Istanbul.
No hurricane is enough to restrict each and every bird's flight. Few are able to make their own way, pushing against the winds and keep harmony with the ground soil at the same time. With each downpour, they rise like the Petrichor. Let us explore a little about the experiences and struggles of his creative childhood and teen life in Yugoslavia.
Prosvanje I peti tri. We've translated it as sophomores have been called. Because prosvan means when you're in the class, they call your name, like a roll call. Okay. So several times in the film, there is a roll call and different things happen. And in the end, the teacher, before we're going to be killed, makes roll call and brings all the children to. It was a challenge, and I had nightmares for 6 months of dying, of being killed, all of that. And that was the result of it, and I didn't know. Point in the film everybody knows that we will be killed. So the director asked different children actors, young actors, to behave. One ran away and they shoot him. One was crying. One was shaking. My job was to look straight on and grow up in 3 seconds.
And it's so amazing, amusing, and also astonishing to see a teenager establishing his own theaters and art forms. So, when I was researching, I came to know that by the age of 13, you were already a star.
Marković Slavko. Hajdemo, deco. Ne bojimo se.
So, and most of the people of your country, more than 90% Yugoslavia has watched this film. So, at this age, how do you handle this stardom?
I was in a way lucky that because my family was so complicated, I realized I have to rely on myself. So often I was the most mature person among them, even giving advice, because they were just completely rational. And compared to other children, grandmothers and aunties who said, my mother never did that. My mother gave me her love through literature. She was a translator and she told me about books. And I already have enormous education. At 4, I could tell the difference between Botticelli and Leonardo. At 7, I can tell the difference between Mozart and Haydn. I knew what is the notes in the papers and the books. So she gave me, and same my father, they were translators. And even if they quarrel in German, thinking I can't understand, when they talked about etymology or words or translation, they are completely different. So I was already not really infantile. I was here in Turkey, they call me Dede, which is grandfather. And I was Dede from the beginning. So when this enormous amount of unhealthy and complicated attention came, I was not swallowed by it because I was interested in things. And actually, I turned completely inward and began to paint certain paintings in a technique which was not, because of my mother's translator. She translated some books from German and English about techniques. So I reconstructed egg tempera and did these paintings. And if you don't have them, I'll send it to you. So I went in. So this thing was not, my identity was not absolutely with the stardom. And this is the problem. This is why, the art schools promise then because you're so great, you will be discovered, not because, your aunt is in the parliament and your uncle is very rich and your grandfather was already in Hollywood and things like that. No, because you are so great, you will be recognized. And then they exploited amazing people. They dragged them like Marlyn Monroe and now I can't think of his name, Marlon Brando. And they were extraordinary people, but this artificial and superficial stimulation really destroys me. So I was lucky of having a complicated childhood, which gave me understands not to trust what is just immediately in one's face, but to go deep, to sense some kind of existential flaw. But that sounds pretentious when one says it's not non-verbal. It's like, let's go.
And it's a coincidence that in my part of India, where I live in North India, we also address our grandfathers as Dada.
Great.
So,
and I was also very, very committed to the gypsy issue because, and also to the Albanians, the Arnaut issue in Serbia, because somehow I felt that there is a whole wealth which is not really understood by people, because people always want to segregate, to make themselves better. So I did that one film about a gypsy boy, which I knew, who sang beautifully, and I was teaching him to sing. And the other film was about a girl and so on. And they actually lost because I had to leave country in great hurry, and they were part of the film club, and I think they just destroyed them. So it wasn't that. You see Tito in the back.
yes,
back.
I can see. Yes, I can see.
I am in the front, and we were all the children performers. I was singing in the chorus. I was the soloist. And also the Radio Belgrade chorus, children chorus, was singing in the operas where they were. So we sang in Opera Carmen. And my mother let me stay longer to see each performance. So everybody in the theater was teaching.
Okay.
The stage hand would put me quickly in the revolving staircase so I can watch the directors, the tailors, the scening. So, and this was, I was 7, 8, 9. So by the time I was, my voice broke, I had tremendous amount of direct training, like what shoemakers or, people who make food or, direct training, not some theories or.
Not formal training.
Yeah, and I bring that into what we do, this storytelling and simple performances, because I know some aspects of the craft of presenting.
And what was that one thing that prompted you to appear in an interview for Radio Belgrade?
Well, that's a complicated question, but I was kind of isolated as a child. I was the only child in a very, very strange family. So my father's family, which after the Second War we were all put in the same apartment, didn't talk to my mother and me. So my father was like in between. Then when I was 5, my father and mother divorced, but he lived downstairs and I lived with my mother. They were left in their consciousness. They were talking about a new world, but they didn't let me play with the children in the street because they were wrong children. So I went to the kindergarten, but I was mostly alone listening to the radio. And I loved the radio. Sometimes I would embrace the radio and just listen to it. And it was one program. So you would listen classical music, folklore, advertisements, science, everything. So it was an amazing education. And one day I heard of advertisement or announcements for children performance, and I was so excited. And I drove my poor mother crazy because I would dance, put a cushion on my head, recite something, and she would say, "Oh, please stop it, I'm getting seasick," and she would get an aspirin. So when I heard this, I thought, that is what I want to do. So when she came back, I told her, and she said, "No way, you have no talent and I have no time." But I knew where the radio station was, very close to the people I went almost every day to do homework. So I went by myself to the audition. I sang, and I won it out of lots of children. I don't want to tell the number because it could be inflammatory. And so I was going to the rehearsals, and after 2 months they said, "Look, how ill are your parents? If they don't sign, you can't come." So when I told my mother, she just lost it. And she brought my father. They divided it so she's the discipline and the breadwinner, and he's, like teaching me about etiquette and taking me out for lemonade and chocolate, things like that. But when he came, he said, "You can't make those decisions. Your child, if she says no, it's no." I don't know what I did, screamed or did something, and they were both silent. And then he said he clearly wants to do it. And my mother said, "Okay, you're on your own. I'm not going to go to a single audition or rehearsal." And that was the end of my childhood. I became a serious professional. I became celloist in a few months. And she went eventually to sign, and they said, "Oh, your child is so gifted." And she just looked at me. And they said, "Are you feeling better?" And she looked at me like, "See you at home." And so that is how it all started. But she let me stay and learn once she accepted it. And so that's how it all started. So that is on the cover, and that is, that is really our manifesto. And it's really honoring, and this was partially unconscious, honoring the feminine wisdom. And this has been a thread of my work throughout. So already there, we were kind of 15 and we did a manifesto, but we put this woman pointing to something beyond obvious. So that is, and my drawings are still within the same style. I didn't become cubist one year and fauvist another year, and then conceptual, cutting my fingers following year. I have always drawn kind of like this.
And then perhaps the very rough phase of your life arrived after 19, I suppose. Would you like to tell something about that?
The rough phase arrived much earlier.